2024 was the 100th anniversary of Rhapsody in Blue. The composition began with band leader Paul Whiteman asking George Gershwin to write a chair-like piece for an all-jazz concert in honor of Lincoln's birthday to be performed at the Aeolian Hall in New York City. Whiteman became fixated upon performing such an extended composition by Gershwin and was able to convince the reluctant composer. Gershwin told biographer Isaac Goldberg in 1931 how the piece was created. It was on the train with its steely rhythms, its rattly bang that is so often stimulating to a composer. I frequently hear music in the very heart of noise, and I suddenly heard, even saw on paper, the complete construction of the Rhapsody, from beginning to end. No new themes came to me, but I worked on the thematic material already in my mind and tried to conceive of the composition as a whole. I heard it as a sort of musical kaleidoscope of America, our vast melting pot of our unduplicated national pep and of our metropolitan madness. By the time I reached Boston, I had a definite plot of the piece as distinguished from its actual substance. After a few weeks, Gershwin finished his composition and passed the score titled A Rhapsody in Blue to Ferde Grofre, Whiteman's arranger. Grofre finished orchestrating the piece a mere 8 days before its premiere. Some of you may recognize the name Ferde Grofre. He was the composer of the Grand Canyon Suite. So by this time, Gershwin was rubbing elbows with many of America's greatest musicians. Many famous musicians attended the Rhapsody in Blue premiere, including Victor Herbert. Tonight's piano soloist is Eileen Kramer. She is a graduate of Bucknell University and has a master's degree from Miami University, majoring in piano with a minor in voice and music education. She also holds a master's in school administration. She has taught all grades in vocal music, directed over 30 musicals, taught and accompanied hundreds of solo and group performances, served as the New York State School of Music Association All-Star Vocal Jazz Chair, Music Department Chairperson, and as the District Coordinator of Music, serving 8,600 students. With that, please enjoy Rhapsody in Blue. don't know how much I miss not being able to play that piece. That was phenomenal. But Chuck did it better than I probably could. But anyway, I'd like to spend just a minute telling you a little bit about George Gershwin. George was born Jacob Gershwin on September 26, 1898, in an apartment on Steiger Avenue in New York City. He was named after his grandfather, and contrary to American practice, has no middle name. He soon became known as George, and changed the spelling of his surname to Gershwin around the time he became a professional musician. Other family members followed suit later. The family lived in many different residences as their father changed dwellings with each new enterprise in which he became involved. They grew up mostly in the Yiddish theater district. George and his older brother Ira frequented the local Yiddish theaters, with George occasionally appearing on stage as an extra. George lived a boyhood not unusual in New York tenements at the time, which included running around with his friends, roller skating, and misbehaving in the streets. Until 1908, he cared nothing about music. Then, as a 10-year-old, George's parents bought a piano for his brother Ira. To his parents' surprise and Ira's delight, it was George who spent more time playing the piano, and he continued to enjoy it. Starting in 1911, George studied with various piano teachers for about 2 years before finally being introduced to Charles Hambitzer by Jack Miller, the pianist in the Beethoven Symphony Orchestra. Until his death in 1918, Hambitzer remained Gershwin's musical mentor, teaching him conventional piano techniques, introducing him to the music of the European classical tradition, and encouraging him to attend orchestral concerts. By 1913, Gershwin left school at the age of 15 to work as a song plugger in New York City's Tin Pan Alley. He earned $15 a week from Jerome H. Rennick and Company, a Detroit-based publishing firm with a branch office in New York. He published his first song in 1916 with the great title of "When You Want 'Em, You Can't Get 'Em, When You've Got 'Em, You Don't Want 'Em." It earned the 17-year-old a 50-cent royalty. Also in 1916, Gershwin started working for the Aeolian Company and Standard Music roles in New York City, recording and arranging. He produced dozens, if not hundreds, of roles under his own and assumed names. He also recorded roles of his own compositions for the dual Art and Welty Migman reproducing pianos. In addition to recording piano roles, Gershwin made a brief foray into vaudeville as an accompaniment. His first song to appear on Broadway was "Making of a Girl," written for the passing show of 1916. His 1917 novelty ragtime Rialto Ripples was a commercial success. But it was in 1919 that Gershwin scored his first big national hit with the song "Swanee." Al Jolson heard Gershwin play Swanee at a party and decided to sing it in one of his shows. Jolson's recording brought Gershwin instant recognition and helped pave the way for his future. Ladies and gentlemen, Swanee.